Hey y'all, Emergency Player here. I made a little animated short film about Trubbish. If you've seen it, it's not good. It's okay. It's very okay. I think when I started it, I did it like a month ago. It says here I started it at like November 12th and I made the script for it. It's okay. If you want, go watch it before watching this video so you can see what I mean. If it wasn't apparent already, or if you weren't aware, this video was inspired by the interaction that you have with Trubbish in Pokemon Legends ZA. Out in the wild, usually when you're holding out your Pokeball, wild Pokemon either run away from you or they attack you. However, with Trubbish, they see that you're holding up a Pokeball and they're like, oh, have me, please. So then they come up to you, super cute, and it's like really sad, but it's also really sweet. So I decided to make the animation based on that interaction. This video is more so behind the scenes of how I made the Trubbish short film. And I also want to point out and critique my own video, and then also some of my friends' critiques of the video of what I could do differently next time in the creative process. That way I can not have something like this again. I was going to make this behind the scenes regardless, and I really want to make behind the scenes content because it helps demystify the creative process, and I hope it can inspire more of you guys to create stuff. With all that said and done, here's behind the scenes of... So just like with most of my videos, the first thing I did was write the script. However, a lot of the script was very like just actions, so there wasn't a lot of like actual script. I think this is the entire line of script that we have, where it was just like, throw Pokeball, Larry opens Pokeballs to catch in ZA, catch another Pokemon run away, sees a Trubbish waddles towards Larry. And I thought like, maybe it's more productive to storyboard this. Now, I should preface, I've never storyboarded before. So I started with the storyboard process and I drew everything out in Procreate. And these are very rough sketches. And as I was going along doing these sketches, it just kind of started off with the Bellsprout scene, Bellsprout running away. After Bellsprout runs away, then it throws at Mareep. And then it shows the scenes of all the Pokemon running away. And I thought it'd be really funny to have this low angle shot of my face being like, ooh. Mainly because I thought it'd be funny to draw me with a double chin. And how that translated in animation, it was fine. And the reason why Bellsprout and Mareep are the main Pokemon that are being caught is because they were easy to draw in a very short amount of time. Like you can see my Tyrant here. I even had a Bidoof at some point and a Staryu. But yeah, this is my first time storyboarding it. It wasn't very detailed and I think I should have shared it with more people and actually gotten feedback on it. I did post this on like Instagram and TikTok, but not a lot came from it, and I wasn't really looking for feedback. It was just looking for something to post. But in hindsight, I should have probably gotten feedback on it. That was how I wrote the script. Now I'm going to go into the Pokemon that we have in the video. The ones that are in the video are Trubbish, Tyrant, Bellsprout, Goomy, and Mareep. There were a few others that were also in consideration. On my list here, we also had Ampharos, Scraggy, Phalanx, and then I was also considering Honedge and Staryu and Bidoof. Ampharos was already done, but I didn't have a rig on it, and I was just too lazy to make a rig for that. And then the other 4, 5, 6, 7, I was just too lazy. Just too lazy to model them. I already modeled like Trubbish, Bellsprout, Goomy, and Mareep all within like a week. So it was just really exhausting having to go back and then model some more. And then I posted some of these models on TikToks, and these were some of my thought processes through each Pokemon that I modeled. Tyrant was already created, and I just decided to continue using it since I already had a rig for it, and I thought the model was really good, so I really liked it, and I just kept using it for this video. I decided to make a Trubbish, so I started with a cube, and then I made a mirror modifier and a subdivision modifier, creating the basic shape of the Trubbish. Afterwards, I began to UV map this Trubbish, and then I would proceed to draw the textures, as you can see on the bottom. Afterwards, I decided to rig it and add some noise for texture, and it's finished. Bellsprout is one of those Pokemon that was kind of off my radar for a long minute until Pokemon ZA came out, and then I loved the Mega Vitrubel's design. When modeling it, I did a little subdivision modifier to create the face and then the body and the arms. It was very simple, but then adding in the textures and adding in some extra little noise on the bumps added a nice little flair to it. Then I made it do the little Glep dance because that's really cute. Now for Mareep. I started by modeling with the subdivision modifier, and then I actually used the displacement modifier to create the wool effect for Mareep. Afterwards, I added the UV maps, and then I created some textures. For the bumps, I actually utilized the textures that I created in Procreate, and then I added a noise to mix in with it. And then finally, I made a dance to Pitbull. Thanks to Amanda's suggestion, Mareep's dance is based on the vibing cat meme. When modeling Gumi, I actually didn't make a subdivision modifier this time. Instead, I just used a spear and then extruded from there. Then afterwards, I added the ears and then textured it a bit. I didn't actually add any bump nodes this time. Instead, I just kept a glossy reflection on it, and I think it suits it a lot better. Then we have a dancing to Rock That Body from Black Eyed Peas. The dance was a little finicky. I just moved my mouse a bunch and then had it record my mouse movement. In terms of the setting, this is based in Pokemon Legends ZA, so I based it off of Lumiose, and I kind of mimicked some of their creative decisions, or I guess optimization decisions, since we found it during the leaks. They're like 3D models, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I just made the buildings by making a cube and then slapping over stock photos of vaguely French buildings and then pasting them onto the boxes. And those were the buildings, and I thought that was really funny. And then we have a street that's like stone or something, whatever French people do. Anyways, yeah, it vaguely looks like Lumiose, and it's funny, and you can still see the watermark right there. Now I'm going to go into a bit of the animation process. I started off by creating walking and running animations for each of the Pokemon and my character, and I knew I wanted Emergency Player to be a lot like a baseball player when throwing the Pokeball, so I referenced how baseball players pitch, and that helped me get a lot of like references and different angles and stuff like that. Then for the beginning shot, I did this new technique, and I actually followed a Ducky 3D tutorial where he created like this Star Wars effect, and I just, instead of making it glow, I just made it black, and I gave off the illusion of speed lines, and I was really happy with that effect. The final thing I want to highlight is the Pokeball capture. This is one of my first like 2D things that I also did at the same time as doing a 3D thing. So I added a glow effect to the Pokemon themselves in their shader material, and then for the 2D effect, I drew it in Procreate, and then I added it into the scene, and it kind of gives off like the effect of the Pokeball, like that red glow that absorbs the Pokemon. And that was most of the highlights that I wanted to capture from the animation process. Before we move on to the critiques, there's one last thing I want to bring up. The Emergency Player shirt. Recently, I redid the shirt so it could have a UV map, and then I could create the shirt to be whatever I want. So it's not just that like the white, vaguely fabric thing that we have going on in all the previous videos, but now I could customize it, and I have a bunch of different designs for it now. The shirt for this video is the UV map for my buff furret that I worked on for my friend's birthday. And I was really debating between the buff furret or every frame of the storyboard placed onto one image. Then I put up a poll on my Instagram, and it was overwhelmingly in the vote of the buff furret. So yeah, we went with buff furret. So that was the behind the scenes of how I made the short film. And now I'm going to go a bit more into the critiquing the video. I'm going to start off with my critiques, then kind of go into some of my friends' critiques of the videos, and then end it with how I will change my animation pipeline and storytelling pipeline and just kind of everything moving forward. And not that it's going to be a significant change, but I think like as I create more short films, I'll improve over time just naturally and through the feedback that I get from these videos. In terms of my critiques, a lot of these issues come from the same root problem where I just don't have enough scenes. I wrote here that it needs to be more clear. Some of the cuts are too sudden. There's not enough shots, and I need more animations of Trubbish, who's pretty much the main character of this story, and that could have helped a lot of like the more emotional parts of the thing, and also some of the funnier bits of the short. But that kind of funnels back to all of the issues just being like, I just need more shots and more scenes in this animation. My friend and producer Demandra also gave me some feedback as well. Usually I consult them on my videos, but I got really lazy this time, and I got a job recently, so they were pretty busy. Here are some of their notes. The collision in the Pokeball was weird, and how it sank into the ground. The sound is very out of sync, which is something that I noticed as well. Some of the shots could be multiple panels, kind of giving homage to like comics or montages and spy films. And the biggest piece of feedback, which I think is the most important, is that the story is too confusing. They took too long to figure out that I was trying to catch a Pokemon, and there should have been more establishing shots or some more dialogue to help sort of set the tone and guide the reader or the viewer in a certain way so they could understand the story better. So how do I address these critiques and fix my animation pipeline in doing so? First off, next time I do a short film, I definitely want to have a more defined storyboard and run storyboard by some people, whether that's friends or strangers on the internet. I think that would be very helpful and would help overall. I also want to add more 2D elements to describe what's going on, not necessarily spell it out, but Demandra gave an example of having like the battle UI to tell what's happening and other subtle details like that could help add a lot of context to the viewer. I also want to up the pacing in the video, as a lot of it feels very sluggish, and that has to do more so with my animation style. And then also, this is more of a minor thing, but I still think it's important. The camera movements felt very artificial. I think something that I read about in animation is that you want to treat the camera like it's physically in the world. Like, how would the camera work in the real world? Not that the animation has to be realistic or the camera movement has to be realistic, but it should feel physical and tactile. And so much of the animation of the camera movement in this short is very smooth, floaty, and very cartoony, but not in a good type of way. These are the main fixes that I want to do, and as I continue making short films, I hope to get better and improve on each one. Hopefully. We'll see. I hope you all enjoyed this little behind the scenes. If there's anything I missed that you want covered, just ask in the comments below. I'd love to respond. If you have any other feedbacks about the animated short, please comment also. I really do want to improve. As I said earlier, this wasn't great. As I keep doing these, I really hope to do get better and tell better stories, not just Pokemon related ones, but maybe even some others from my brain and not IP based. Yeah, if you want to join me on that journey, like and subscribe for more. I also have more storytime content here on my channel about me doing game development in college, and I hope to do more non-game development related ones, so check those out as well.